Did you know that we have channel memberships now? If you'd like to help support this channel, get some exclusive Kawabana emotes to use in the comments, as well as an exclusive badge by your name, click that join button now to find out more. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys. They called it Shigai Woods, although Shigai Thicket would probably have been more appropriate. A tiny cluster of trees and bamboo in the middle of a large agricultural area. It stood out like a sore thumb. And for good reason. It was said that if you ever cut down any of the trees inside Shigai Woods, you would be cursed. Perhaps they should have called it the Cursed Thicket instead, although that admittedly sounded far less scary. She was frightened as they entered, if she had to be entirely honest, but as soon as she stumbled upon the stone monument that signified Akami's resting place, she relaxed. So that was why the place was sacred. All those rumours about severed heads and curses were just to keep people out of a sacred area. This tiny slice of forest in the middle of nowhere wasn't for humans, it was for Kami. Their little test of courage was over quicker than you could make a 2-minute cup of noodles. It really was tiny, and there was nowhere else to go. You could run from one end to the other in less than 20 seconds, no doubt. She sighed in relief. Something rustled overhead. Her friends all looked at each other. "It's just the wind," someone said, their voice betraying their emotions. No, if it had been the wind, the entire forest would have rustled. This was above their heads and only above their heads. Another section of bamboo rustled, this time a little further away. One particular section, not the entire woods. One single part. They all looked at each other and nodded. They took off running for the exit. Something cold to the touch brushed the back of her neck as she left. They safely reached the car, but she didn't mention a word of it to the others. Even after that, they likely wouldn't believe her. After all, who would believe they'd just had a literal brush with a god? Shigai Woods is an interesting clump of trees, barely big enough to call a forest, that sits in the middle of a large agricultural area in Shiga Prefecture. It's as though someone dropped a bunch of trees and bamboo in the middle of a rice field, and everyone decided to continue working around it, rather than disturb it. Its official name is Shinkai Woods, with Shinkai meaning the opening of uncultivated land. It's believed that over time the pronunciation changed from Shinkai to Shigai, which means corpse. As such, these days it's known popularly as Corpse Woods. This tiny section of trees, barely 40 meters wide by 40 meters long, has a long, fascinating history, and it's because of that history that it remains untouched today, despite the developments that have taken place around it. The woods are believed to have been Oda Nobunaga's execution grounds back during the Warring States period of Japan, the man who was the first of Japan's 3 unifiers. One story goes that several female servants left nearby Azuchi Castle, one of Oda's primary castles, for a little fun down in the castle town. Shigai Woods sits roughly 2 kilometers in a straight line from Azuchi Castle, and was also on the road leading towards Kyoto, meaning it would have been heavily trafficked at the time. When Oda heard these servants had left the castle without permission, he flew into a rage and cut their heads off. He just so happened to do so at what is now Shigai Woods. It's said that even today, you can see their severed heads floating around the woods, and their bones are still buried deep in the ground beneath the bamboo and trees. There, they sleep eternally, yet unable to rest properly, as their heads continue to roam the woods at night, shaking the trees and watching all who enter. People claim to feel eyes watching them when they enter Shigai Woods, and these servants who had their heads cut off are most often blamed. Yet, they weren't the only ones to lose their heads at Shigai Woods. Oda wasn't done yet. In 1579, the now famous Azuchi religious debate took place. Monks of the Hokke sect of Buddhism got into a series of religious arguments with monks from the Jodo sect. In particular, Takebe Shochi and Owaki Densuke from the Hokke sect challenged Reiyo Gyokunen from the Jodo sect, who in turn accused them of being mere novices. Strife broke out, and the Hokke sect sent even more monks from Kyoto to join. Oda initially ignored the strife taking place on his doorstep because he wanted little to do with religion as a politician. He ordered the two fighting sects to get along, but the Hokke refused and continued to argue. In the end, he was forced to step in, and he ordered Takebe and Owaki executed for starting the whole mess in the first place. The remaining Hokke sect monks were also forced to write a letter of apology, and they backed down for fear of more executions. Today, you can find a small shrine on the outskirts of Shigai Woods with a tiny stone monument next to it. Both Takebe and Owaki's names are engraved on the monument, with the word martyrs written beneath. They, if you believe the story, were also killed at Shigai Woods, or at the very least, had their severed heads displayed there for all to see. This information comes from the Shincho Koki, a chronicle of Oda Nobunaga by a warrior who followed him, so its authenticity has been doubted over the years. The shrine and stone monument exist, but the exact details of what went down and whether they truly played out this way are unknown. Inside the woods is yet another stone monument that states, Imamiya Daimyojin, Temmangu Otabisho. Otabisho is a place for revelers carrying a portable shrine, in which the kami travel to rest, meaning this is a rest spot for the gods. It's not a shrine as such, but it's still a holy place, and that may be the real reason behind people saying the woods are cursed. It's not so much that the spirits of those killed there over the years will get you, but perhaps an angry kami might. The woods are freely accessible to the public, although you need to walk across the edge of some privately owned rice fields to reach them. It's not a large area, but it is sacred and full of history, so those visiting the site would do well to remember that it's not just a ghost spot, it's a holy place too. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.